Hello friends, I hope you are all doing well and are staying sane during this whole Omicron business. But hey, I am not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about fun stuff like Encanto. I'm really excited for this video. I've been really looking forward to doing it and just everything, like drawing the characters and editing it and all the stuff above, because just like the rest of the world, I am completely enchanted with this movie. So I'm really excited to draw these characters with y'all and also to talk about it. So just as a warning, if you haven't seen this, seriously do yourself a favor, go watch Encanto. It's amazing. But as a warning, I will be talking about some details that may be spoilers, so mute this if you want to see me draw, but I don't want to spoil it for y'all. Alright, let's get into it. So to start off, of course, I will be drawing Belle because she is the protagonist of this movie. And okay, can I just say that I completely adore her design. And I mean, everybody's design is amazing, but just as the main character of this movie, her design was beautiful to me because she didn't have your perfect teeny tiny Disney nose. Her hair wasn't super long and lustrous, like, I don't know, just things that you would typically think of a Disney princess. She didn't have those, and I loved it because we're introducing more diversity and hopefully more people can see themselves in Belle, in her features and, you know, in her character too. But I just really like that because it really bothered me for a long time, just the perfection of, or at least to America standards of perfection. She just didn't really have those, and I really appreciate it, from like the roundness of her nose and her curls, her short curls, and her big round glasses. It was just really beautiful to me, and I applaud Disney for doing that, as well as with the rest of the cast. I mean, nobody really had a straight nose, and I mean, can we just talk about Louisa? Like, she was this big, strong woman that looked gorgeous. Usually when people do like strong sisters and stuff, they make them like, I don't know, put things that people would consider ugly, like huge warts on their nose or huge like mole on their face, and like their teeth are all kind of weird, and like, I don't know, they kind of make them like grungy looking, and they didn't do that with oh wow, I forgot her name right now, Louisa. And I was just really, she's gorgeous and strong, like a bodybuilder. And I just was really happy with that. And I just hope that we can see more of this diversity in body types and in color and in hair. I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the character designs that I was really happy with. And I hope that Disney keeps doing that so that more people can see themselves in these characters, and it's not just like whitewashed. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I could talk about it all day long. Also, before we get into the next topic, I just want to note that I did draw Louisa, but I was not smart and I decided to record it from a right angle, and I'm right-handed. So as you can imagine, that didn't work because all that you really saw in the recording was my hand. So I did draw her, and at the end of the video, you will see her being sketched. You can kind of see her little arm while I'm drawing Louisa. But I'm really sorry. I love Louisa, as well as the other characters. So I'm not discriminating against her. I just didn't record it right, and I can't re-record it because I already drew her. So anyways, sorry. Moving on. So now I'm drawing Isabella, which is my daughter's favorite because, you know, flowers. But I actually ended up really liking her arc. I obviously did not like her at first, but then once she kind of came out about the pressures of being perfect and how exhausting that was, and she just wanted to be, like, she just wanted to exist and do what she wanted, or even just discover what it is she wanted. And I just really love that, because I'm a perfectionist and I definitely had pressures to be a certain way growing up, that was brought on by many things. And it's exhausting. It's really hard. And it took me a while, even, like, I would say even until recently, where I really started embracing who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, and really understanding what that was without the pressures of like doing it perfectly and making sure it was at the approval of everybody around me. It's liberating to not have that on you anymore. Now, do I still deal with like perfectionistic stuff? 100%. But to know that I don't have to, and I live for myself, is really, really nice. And I don't know, I just really like that. I think a lot of people need that message. And I love that she kind of like has this crazy colors going on in her hair too. So again, congrats, Disney. I love that. So now I'm drawing Dolores, and oh my gosh, she is so freaking adorable. I don't know anybody who's not in love with her, but I really wish we got to see more of her and her brothers, just like understanding her side of the family a little bit more. Obviously there are like 12 people in the family, so you can't pay attention to all of them. That would get really overwhelming in an hour-and-a-half movie, and just way too complicated. But I like loved that whole family, and the only really person you get insight into is maybe Antonio, where he like just expresses his fear since Belle didn't get a gift, like, and he might also not get a gift. So what does that mean? Like, because there's this whole pressure of like contributing, right? And Belle's seen as like this screw up. So if he can't like do anything either, like what's gonna happen? And that's it. That's all I really get into. And obviously he ends up being fine because he gets a gift. But we don't really know where like Dolores and Camilo stand on like what's going on in the family, like how the pressure gets onto them. Like, I mean, Dolores, we see that she's really sad that she can't be with the ones that she loves because he is betrothed to Isabella. But that's, I mean, I guess that doesn't really tell me about how she feels about the family pressures. There are ideas for Camilo that, you know, he's constantly asked to be someone else in order to help out. And so he could just have like kind of an identity crisis. And again, maybe just like everybody else, like being him is not good enough. He always needs to be someone else. So I can see that happening. Obviously, it didn't get voiced in the movie, but I could totally see that being a thing. So I think that's a really good theory. But other than that, I don't know what Dolores would deal with. I mean, maybe other than like the fact that everything hurts her freaking ears. Like, poor thing. After watching it a few times, my sister pointed out that like whenever there's loud noises, she like covers her ears. And I was just thinking of like, how exhausting would that be to constantly be hearing everything? And then like when there are loud noises, like, ouch, oh my gosh. So, I mean, maybe just her power kind of sucks sometimes. Maybe she can't sleep at night. Because, I mean, she was talking about like the rats in the walls, right? Like, or at least that's what she thought she was hearing. And it was actually probably just Bruno. But, I don't know. Poor thing. So now I am drawing Julieta and Agustin, who are Belle's parents. So I'll admit that I didn't really like Agustin at first. Not that like I hated him or anything, but I mean, he just kind of seemed like a derpy dad figure, and I really hate that stereotype. But he really like impressed me whenever Abuela was getting all like fussy because the house was falling apart and the vision had been revealed, and you know, Isabella's engagement had been ruined. And she was like, you need to find your daughter. Like, why didn't you tell me about the vision? You should have told me as soon as you think, like, what were you thinking? And he's like, I was thinking about protecting my daughter. And he says it so assertively, and like, defensively to like, I'm protecting her. Like, you need to get off of her back about this stuff. And I was just like so happy. I wanted to cry. I don't want to cry most of this movie, but I wanted to cry because like having a parent stand up to people who are being toxic is, and like setting boundaries in order to like keep you emotionally and physically safe. I mean, Abuela wasn't physically threatening Belle, but emotionally she was. And Agustin would just had it at that point with Abuela. And I was just really happy. I just wanted to give like Agustin an award as the best daddy ever. I wish we would have gotten a little more insight into how Julieta was feeling. Again, not that you can really give time to every single character and how they're doing in this family, but Julieta seems to have everything really put together, but I don't know, she has like these sad eyes, and it just tells me that there's something really going on inside of her. I mean, she almost too like defends where like her mom is coming from after like the cracks happen and Belle stops the party, and what she really should have done was believe Belle and said, well, let's just watch out, like, and she could have said like, I believe you, let's just watch out for it, you know, and maybe even been like an advocate for her. But she's just as much like in this family and in the toxicity of everything as everybody else is, and she can't really do anything about it. So I don't know. So yeah, that's all I have to say really about Julieta, because we just don't really get much into her, and I wish we did, but oh well. So now I'm going to draw little Antonio, and I think I've said everything I wanted to say about him. I will say I really, really loved the interaction between him and Belle while he was preparing to get his gift. And just that little tender moment where he was very vulnerable and really, he was really terrified that he would end up disappointing his family, just like what happened with Belle. And I mean, that would have great consequences, because then like you kind of don't get love from Abuela anymore once she realizes that you aren't contributing to the Encanto, and could also be contributing to it falling apart. And I just loved Belle's response that, like, you know what, like, she probably was scared that maybe it wouldn't happen too, like the same thing, traumatic thing would happen to him that happened to her. But she didn't do that. Instead, she tried to help him feel confident that everything would be okay, especially if whatever way it went. She wanted to make sure that he was instilled with a sense of love and hope. And that was just really beautiful, having Belle like show that empathy despite her experience and the pressures and disappointments that she was carrying around. And I also just love cousin love. Like, that just makes me really happy. I never really got to spend much time with the cousins that were kind of close in age with me, or even just at all. I never really had a close relationship with them, but when I did build a little bit of one when we kind of went to college together, that was just really tender, and I wish I had more of that. And I think it's just really cool that they showed that in this movie, because usually in Disney you don't really get to see families. And I hope we get to see more of that moving forward in Disney. So now we're going to talk about Bruno, even though we're not supposed to talk about him. Just kidding. Although I really love that song, just like everybody else in the world. And I agree that I think it's the new Let It Go. And it's even better than Let It Go. No offense, Frozen. I love Frozen, but this song, Lin-Manuel Miranda really did a good job with the music. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Bruno. I really liked how this character panned out, because he was almost like, he was like another Belle, in the sense that he was a constant disappointment to his family. So much that they like disowned him and pretty much declared him as like the thing we don't talk about because of how shameful he was. But really, he did nothing wrong. And I don't know, it just made me really sad. But also reminds me like that really is like something, and maybe other cultures do this too, but as someone who grew up in a Hispanic culture, for real, when somebody does something that's like considered disapproval, you're like, oh, we don't talk about that relative because he did this and that, or we're not even going to talk about what he did. Or if you do something bad, you're like, oh, you don't want to end up like Bruno, you know? And that's essentially what Julieta said to Belle, which was really sad. But guys, that really is a thing in Hispanic culture. Like, if somebody doesn't do something right, you will always end up being the person that like, oh, you don't want to do this because if you do, you might end up like so-and-so. Anyways, that's a little culture tip for you. But anyway, I really loved his interaction with Belle, and especially when Belle met him and learned that he was living within the walls of the house. And she pauses and says, I don't understand why you never left. And to me, that showed that she considered leaving, which is what I wondered in the beginning. Like, if her life really sucked that much, why didn't she just leave? And he voices exactly what Belle, feels, is that he loves this family. They both do. As toxic as it can be, they want the best for this family. And there are other people besides Abuela who are not very toxic. And I don't know, it just hurts. I think that's why a lot of us stay in toxic situations that we should probably get out of, because we love them. Even though we should probably not be around them, we love them. And it's just hard to make that decision. But sometimes we need to. And Belle did end up running away for a moment near the end of the movie, because she just couldn't handle it anymore. And the shame was just too much. And wow. Yeah, man, this movie was just crazy. Like, how heavy it was. I just ended up bawling my eyes out. But anyways, just so y'all know, I'm drawing Camilo. You probably have guessed that now. And I've talked about him a little bit. We don't know too much about this dude, but I loved him, and he reminded me a lot of my brother, who's just kind of like goofy and likes to make people laugh, but also has like this, I don't know, this attitude to him. Like, he doesn't like taking smack, or like when the house broke down, he's like, well, we don't have a house. Like, just being so sarcastic and just kind of like grouchy sometimes. I don't know, he's just kind of like my brother, and he just kind of make me happy. So I'm gonna circle back around to Belle, because I didn't really talk about her too much in the beginning other than her character design, but I really loved how her arc ended up. I had a friend expressed to me that she was really disappointed that Belle didn't get a gift, and she really felt like she should have gotten it. But I feel like if she got a gift, it would have undermined the message that you don't need to have a specific quality or a way to contribute to family and society to be considered worthy of love, and from both the people around you and from yourself. Because Belle also didn't really love herself. I was always dependent on whether her family was proud of her. And it was important that because she always felt like she was unworthy too of getting this gift from Casita that she also really loved, right? And if she had gotten a gift in the end, I feel like it would have shown like, oh yeah, Casita saw that you proved yourself, and so therefore you are now worthy of a gift, right? And that would not have worked for me, at least. Especially because in the end, Belle sees herself right in the doorknob that they made for her, which I cried at when that happened. And I'm not crying right now. I probably sound like I was crying. But I love that she looks into it and they're like, what do you see? And she says, all of me. And just recognizing that it is her that makes her worthy of everything. And that her, like, almost like her purpose was to help others realize that too. Which she did. She helped that with Luisa and with Isabella. And I don't know, that was just really beautiful to me. So I'm really happy she didn't get a gift in the end, you know? So now that we've talked about Belle while I'm drawing Peppa and Felix, we'll talk a little bit about them in this little bit of time that's left in me drawing them. I just want to say that Peppa and I are kindred spirits in the way that we are constantly on edge and about to explode into thunderclouds. And Felix is a lot like my husband, where he's always keeping me grounded and, you know, saying like, mi amor, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine. And I don't know, I just love their whole dynamic and how much they love each other. And also Felix is such a great daddy. He's just hilarious. So I'm really happy that they were included in this movie. And now we're at the matriarch of the family, Abuela, who I didn't expect to pan out the way that she did. Sitting down with Belle and admitting her trauma and admitting that she was the problem, that it was like her trauma that she was responding to, not really the family, was big. I mean, who does that? Nobody does that, guys. And we should, because really when it comes to toxic behaviors, it comes down to traumatic events that people have experienced. And her sitting down admitting that and then apologizing for what she did as a result of that trauma was beautiful. Oh my gosh, round of applause. Great job, Disney. I also really like too that this is like the narrative of immigrants and really representing that very well. I just hope that kind of gave like an eye-opening insight to others about what immigrants go through when they're fleeing their country and trying to find refuge here in America. And that's all I'll say about that. But Abuela, I loved her in the end. And here's an overview of all my sketches. I hope my voice wasn't too annoying while I talked about it. But yeah, let me know in the comments like what your favorite part about this movie was and who your favorite character was, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!